Welcome to Tree Talkin Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game. Welcome everybody to Tree Talkin Time. Thank you for taking the time to come find this new feed. If you're new here, welcome. If you're coming over from the W feed, thank you for following me over. Just wanted to kind of give a short intro here and kind of explain a few things. So, if you listen to the last podcast that W posted that I did with Richard Bailey, and you listen to the intro that with Jason, you know nothing happened between me and W. Still on good terms. Like the guys over there. We'll still continue to support them and buy stuff from their business. Buddy and Jason, great guys. Just wanted to put that out there and explain that this is just my own thing because I want to do it. That was kind of initially when I wanted to do this a year ago, when I kind of got started and bought some equipment. That was my plan. I reached out to Jason just for some advice, and that's how I ended up working with W. It was right before Bear started providing podcasts for them as well, so it was all right in the same time frame. So that's how we ended up working together. It was just by chance. If I would have never reached out to Jason, this would have started probably 6-8 months ago. So, but by working with them, I learned a lot. They've helped me a lot. So it's been a very beneficial thing for me. But moving forward, going to be on my own feed, obviously, since you're here. So if you've listened to my past episodes, I hope you enjoyed them. You're going to hear a lot of the same style of content. I like to talk to older guys. Reason being is my grandfather had some dogs. Not that he was a big-time houndsman. Had some beagles, had some other great dogs, and some other stuff that he hunted. And as a kid, I just really enjoyed listening to his stories. I remember he was telling me a story about growing up in the Great Depression, and they had a little spaniel, and they ran a lot of skunks and possums, and with her, catch a coon every now and again, but predominantly skunks and possums. And being mischievous kids and putting a skunk in a, I forget if it was a mailbox or a toolbox of somebody, just dumb things like that. But I like listening to the stories that these older guys have and the history that they have and hearing about hunting before modern times, before modern conveniences. I wouldn't turn a dog loose without a Garmin. But I sure like hearing them talk about when they did. So one of my favorite things when I was talking to Daryl Fry was, about how a dog came home at like 150 miles. You just don't hear stuff like that. In the next episode, you're going to hear about how somebody lost a dog for 2 years. So just things like that. I mean, I'm glad we don't have to deal with that today, but I find it interesting, and I like to talk to those guys and hear those stories because, like I said, I feel those houndsmen are not going to be here much longer. Those guys that did all that and dealt with those issues and those problems. And so it's good for us to learn from it, hear their stories, and that's what I really enjoy. One of the biggest inspirations for me getting started with this was Brett Vaughn and his recordings with older dry ground line hunters. I really enjoyed them, and that's kind of what got me wanting to do this with a few guys that I know, who a couple of them you liked. The one that just got released was with Richard Bailey. Well, Richard and me, we used to sit on the phone, and I'd talk to him, or I'd stay on the phone for an hour and a half and probably talk all of 5 minutes. And he would just tell me stories and luckily I was able to capture some of that. Not near as much as what he's told me. And you're never going to get that through a podcast, but if we can get a little bit of it. So that way, maybe down the road, somebody can learn something from it or somebody can enjoy it. And maybe, especially like a family member. I know if I could go back and record with my grandfather, I would love to. Unfortunately, he's passed and that's not an option. But not that it was, like I said, that he was a big-time houndsman or was real serious, but just as his grandson, that would be an awesome thing to have. So maybe down the road somebody's kids or somebody's grandkids can enjoy hearing about the experiences, because I happen to talk to them, or, maybe not me, but maybe another podcaster talked to them. So that's kind of why I do this. It's what I just enjoy talking to guys and hearing those stories. So, and I like to share it with others. So that's kind of why I'm here. I've thought about doing this for many years. When I first started listening to podcasts, I listened to Ron Bame's Hunting Dog podcast probably more than anything else, but would listen to some other big game podcasts where they would bring a houndsman on. And even with Ron's, I would listen to the ones he had houndsmen on, which wasn't very often. So that's when it got me thinking, like, we should really do this. Well, luckily, some other guys have done it. But like I said, some of the guys that I personally knew, they weren't getting interviewed. So that's what made me still want to do this, which is why I'm here, recording these, talking to the guys that I want to talk to, and sharing it with you guys. So I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you very much for listening. For the next 2 months, you're going to hear new content every other week. And then in the off weeks, you're going to hear re-release from the episodes that were released with W. After that, I'm not 100% sure if it'll be weekly or bi-weekly. We'll see. Time will tell. But thank you very much for everyone supporting me by listening to this podcast. If you like it, subscribe, leave me a rating. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram under Tree Talkin Media. I do a little bit of photography. Hope to do some more videography. I did some in the past, non-hound related, so hope to kind of get it back into that a little bit too. So stay tuned for all of my content coming out. Thank you very much.